Every year, the British monarchy gets a huge pile of public money called the sovereign grant. For 2024-2025, that figure was £86.3 million. We're told this cash funds the royals' official duties, the upkeep of palaces, and all the pomp and pageantry we see on TV. It's presented as a simple deal: public funding for public service. We see the palaces, we see the parades, but what we don't see is the colossal private fortune they're legally allowed to hide from us. While the public's finances are an open book, the royals use a string of centuries-old loopholes and special exemptions to keep their true wealth a total mystery. The sovereign grant is just the tip of a massive financial iceberg. The rest is submerged in a sea of legal secrecy, shielded from the very taxpayers who fund their official lives. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the specific rules that let the monarchy legally hide their billions. The story of royal money always starts with the sovereign grant. It's the number you hear on the news and the figure debated in Parliament. For the 2024-2025 financial year, it was set at £86.3 million. Now, this is where it gets tricky. The grant is tied to profits from the Crown estate, and because those profits recently surged, the formula was supposed to send the grant soaring. Instead, the government cut the percentage to 12% to rein it in, but the bottom line is it's still a massive amount of public money. The official purpose is paying for official duties, staff, and maintaining palaces like Buckingham Palace. On the surface, it seems transparent enough. The royal household even publishes an annual report. But that report is a masterclass in strategic omissions. For a start, it leaves out some of the biggest bills. The astronomical cost of royal security, for example, isn't in there. That's paid for by the police, meaning the real cost to the taxpayer is way higher than the headline figure. And then there's travel. Any royal trip that costs less than £15,000, like all those helicopter flights, doesn't have to be listed one by one in the reports. They're just lumped into a total, leaving a huge chunk of their travel spending shielded from view. And that's where the neat, tidy story starts to fall apart. The sovereign grant creates the illusion of a monarchy that depends on public cash and is held accountable. But it's just one entry in a much bigger, murkier ledger. The real story of their wealth isn't in those glossy reports. It's found in two medieval land empires, a special legal trick for their wills, and a total exemption from the laws that demand transparency from everyone else. To understand how they hide their billions, we have to go beyond the grant and into their private financial empire. And that empire begins with the duchies. The single greatest engine for generating private royal wealth is a pair of ancient entities, the Duchy of Lancaster and the Duchy of Cornwall. These aren't just quaint old titles, they are massive private property portfolios that operate like multi-billion-dollar corporations. They are the primary source of personal income for the King and the Prince of Wales. Let's start with the Duchy of Lancaster. Created in the 14th century, this is the private estate of the reigning monarch. It owns over 18,000 hectares of land, including farms, commercial buildings, and residential properties. For the year ending in March 2024, the duchy handed King Charles a private income of around £26 million. This is his personal money, completely separate from the sovereign grant. The duchy's total asset value is now a staggering £670 million. Then you have its even bigger twin, the Duchy of Cornwall. Set up in 1337 for the heir to the throne, it now serves the same purpose for Prince William. This estate is enormous, valued at over £1.1 billion and covering about 128,000 acres of land. It owns everything from farmland and forests to office parks and even Dartmoor Prison. In recent years, it has generated a private income for the Prince of Wales in the range of £24 million annually. This money funds the official, charitable, and private lives of him, his wife, and their children. Now for the crucial loophole. These duchies play by a completely different set of rules than any other business in the UK. Thanks to a special arrangement, they are exempt from paying corporation tax or capital gains tax. Any other British company making millions in profit would pay tax on it. The duchies don't. Think about that. A combined portfolio worth nearly £2 billion, generating tens of millions in personal income for the king and his heir, isn't taxed like a normal business. The justification is that they're private estates, yet they get a surprising amount of income from public bodies. Investigations have shown that the duchies charge government departments, local councils, and even the NHS for using their land. For example, the Duchy of Cornwall charges the Ministry of Defense for military training exercises on Dartmoor. So while the official line is that the duchies aren't funded by the taxpayer, they are in fact profiting from taxpayer-funded groups. And while both the King and Prince of Wales have agreed to voluntarily pay income tax on the money they personally take, the duchies themselves, the corporate bodies, are shielded. This tax exemption gives them a huge commercial advantage, letting them reinvest and grow their wealth at a scale no other company can. It's a centuries-old system that is, in essence, a perfectly legal, state-sanctioned wealth-hiding machine. If the duchies are the engine of royal wealth, then sealing their wills is the lockbox that keeps the grand total a secret forever. For any ordinary person in Britain, a will becomes a public document after death. Anyone can look it up to see the size of the estate and who got what. It's a basic part of legal transparency. But for the royal family, that rule simply doesn't apply. Since at least 1910, a special legal convention has allowed the wills of senior royals to be sealed by the High Court. This happens in secret, away from the public and the press. The result is that the final wishes of dozens of royals and the full extent of their personal fortunes are locked away. We are not allowed to know what they owned, what it was worth, or who inherited it. Prince Philip's will is a perfect example. After he died in 2021, a secret court hearing approved an application to seal his will for at least 90 years. And after those 90 years are up, it won't just pop open. It will be privately reviewed to decide if it should stay locked away for even longer. This isn't a one-off. The president of the High Court's Family Division is the keeper of a safe that holds more than 30 of these sealed royal wills. For the monarch, this privilege goes even further. The sovereign's will doesn't just get sealed, it isn't even required to go through the normal legal process of probate, thanks to a powerful constitutional convention. This means we will likely never know the true personal wealth of Queen Elizabeth II. The official reason for all this secrecy is to protect the dignity of the sovereign, but the effect is to draw a thick, impenetrable veil over the monarchy's inherited wealth. We do know that some inheritances are treated differently. To prevent the breakup of royal assets, there's a special arrangement so that inheritance tax isn't paid when assets pass from one monarch to the next. But sealing the wills prevents anyone from seeing how this all works. How much wealth is passed down? How is it distributed? It's a level of secrecy no other family in Britain gets, ensuring their finances are never truly open to public scrutiny. Beyond the duchies and the secret wills, the royals use a more subtle but just as effective web of financial concealment. This is the world of incomplete reports and a carefully built information blackout that hides the true cost of the monarchy. As we covered, the Sovereign Grant Report, the main accountability document, is full of holes. The security bill, one of the biggest costs, is completely missing, pushed onto police budgets and hidden in general government spending. The rule about lumping all travel under $15,000 into one number means a steady stream of short-haul helicopter trips goes by without individual notice. Together, these represent a significant hidden subsidy. But the real wall of silence comes from one thing. The royal family has an exemption from the Freedom of Information Act 2000. This is probably the single most powerful tool they have for hiding their influence and spending. The FOI Act is what lets journalists and the public request documents from public bodies to hold them accountable. The royal household, however, is not considered a public authority under the Act and is therefore immune. This isn't just a technicality, it's a fortress. It means that correspondence between the monarch, the heir, and the second in line to the throne and government officials is absolutely off limits. It blocks any attempt to find out how the royals might be lobbying the government on policies that affect them, from tax laws to environmental regulations. They can operate as a powerful, behind-the-scenes political lobby with no public oversight. This blackout also helps keep the royal archives, a private collection, shielded from public view, blocking access to historical papers that would otherwise be available. It all adds up to a system that can't be properly audited. They get public money but are exempt from the law designed to ensure public accountability. They release a financial report, but it leaves out major costs. They run massive commercial estates that profit from public bodies, but they don't pay corporation tax. Each loophole is a shield, but together they form an impenetrable fortress of financial secrecy designed to keep the public in the dark. So, how do the royals legally hide their billions? The answer is a carefully maintained system built over centuries that blends medieval privilege with modern legal loopholes. It starts with the Duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall, two multi-billion-pound property empires that give the King and Prince of Wales tens of millions in private, tax-advantaged income every year. It continues with the unique right to seal their wills, making sure the true scale of their inherited fortune is never revealed to the public. And it's all locked down by a blanket exemption from the Freedom of Information Act, which blocks any real scrutiny of their spending, influence, and private dealings. The justification is always the same: protecting the dignity and privacy of the monarchy. But the result is a two-tiered system. One for the public, where financial transparency is an expectation, and another for the crown, where secrecy is the law. And that leaves us with a big question. In a modern democracy, is this level of financial secrecy from a publicly funded institution really acceptable?